you don't know if it's going up or down or how the company's performing, right? Like, for example, my mom has a QRP. Not a ton of money in it, but we were able to roll it over. The fake COVID happened, right? The market crashes. We all know it's like a manufactured crash. I had a lot of her money, in like money market. I threw it into a Vanguard fund. 6 months later, it doubled and I moved it back. So if you're going to actively do some of that, it's not like stocks are the devil or anything. It's just confidence and control of what you're actually investing in is the key, right?
Welcome to Dan Kramer's 4F's Faith, Family, Business, Finance podcast. No matter what you're needing, Dan Kramer is going to help you grasp important concepts about business, life, family, fitness, and most of all, faith. Because as an entrepreneur, you need all four areas of life in order to succeed, in order to be more successful, and have exactly what you want. Subscribe to the podcast today, check out our YouTube channel, and let's get the show started with Dan Kramer and the 4F's Faith, Family, Fitness, and Finance.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is the 4F Forum where we talk about faith, family, fitness, and finances. A lot about finances, and today we have a cool guest. I've been probably working with Damion now for 4 or 5 years, probably since I first met him. And an expert in his space. We're gonna let him tell his story here a little bit. And really, the topic is getting control of your money. I mean, if you've been following me, that's a reoccurring statement I make in your financial life. You want to get control of your money. And he started a company and helps clients all over probably the world, but for sure the US, redirect the retirement funds, redirect their cash into places that, they have more control of. So we'll talk more about that. So Damion, let's jump into it. Tell me a little bit about your personal life, if you'd like, where you're at, how'd you get to where you're at? And then we'll kind of dive into the specifics in a bit.
Man, it's good to see. It's amazing how many years it's been. I was thinking back, and it was 2016, 2017 when we started working together, and I was thinking how fast time goes by when your head's down, and that's one of the things that I've noticed as I get older. In the beginning of life, I was chasing things, and so time didn't go nearly as fast because I was chase something for a minute, and then I chased something else, and I was like, okay, well, nothing's really happening. And then recently, in the last 7-8 years, I've had my head down, just buried in this one thing. And the one thing is the self-directed retirement space. And I did that because I wanted to make a dent in the universe. I had this experience just right at 10 years ago where my dad got sick and passed away. And when right before he died, we were having a conversation, and I had done real estate and made a lot of money and lost a lot of money in 2008. When I say a lot, we're talking tens of millions that I lost. So that was tragic. But what was more tragic was the conversation I had with my dad when he looked at me and he knew he had weeks to live. And he said, there were so many things in life that I wanted to do, and I'm out of time. Mm-hmm. And it was at that moment I realized, wow, he's at the moment of his peril. He's about to die. He's living with regret. And when I started to really unpack it, what I realized is he didn't have the resources. He played the game, he did the thing, played by the rules, was in the military, and a professor up in Alaska, and ultimately retired and didn't have any money to do the things. So he missed my sister's wedding because he didn't have any money. I mean, it was really sad. And I think most people in society, especially America, they're in a place where they're stuck. They don't have the resources, and it's not getting better. So the idea of retirement is getting very, very scary for people because they have no idea how they're going to actually survive, let alone thrive. And so I sat with my dad and I started thinking about it for the next couple of years, and I realized there was a gap in the market where people didn't know how they were going to have any type of peaceful or thriving retirement, and I wanted to help fix that. So that's where EQRP came to life. I thought, I'm going to do something. I'm going to teach. I'm going to create a space, and realized that there was this massive opening where people just didn't know they had options. And so I ended up writing a book called the QRP book, and went deep into this. And so for the last 7-8 years, been very, very narrowly focused in building this out. And now there's thousands of clients that we've helped all over the country. And it's been remarkable to watch all the people that are literally coming to us and saying, thank you for giving me the rest of my life. because they didn't realize there was an option, and they didn't know how, even if there was an option. And so that's my dent in the universe now. It's giving people a chance to define their retirement versus just hoping that they don't run out of money before they run out of life.
Yeah, and you jumped right into the product per se, but EQRP really, explain what that is in really basic layman's terms.
Yeah, what EQRP is a tool. It's basically a vehicle where you get control of your retirement money. So these 401ks, 403bs, and IRAs, all that stuff, these tax shelters, that's all they are. All those funny little names, those are just shelters where you get to build assets in theory without being taxed constantly. And the government wants you to do that because they don't want you to show up and say, I need Social Security or I'm going to die. And so EQRP is a type of retirement vehicle that gives you the ability to invest in virtually anything you want. So it's very different than typical IRAs or 401ks where you're stuck in the stock market being raped and pillaged by Wall Street. It actually gives you the ability to have a checkbook and invest in things like mobile home parks and Bitcoin and gold and apartments and maybe a house. You want to flip a house. Like there's all these things. You're not just stuck with some random stock that you don't really want to buy and you don't trust. So it's a control thing. It's where you get to be in charge.
And it's not like you went out and created something. You just played by the rules they made, right? In the tax code.
Yeah, so the tax code is interesting because it's been set up the way it is for more than 40 years, meaning that this was created, the IRAs, the 401ks were created back in the 70s. And what I did is I went in and read the code and said, wow, there's a lot of options here that the financial advisors of the world, people unlike you in your space where you're actually giving people the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Everybody else is kind of just giving a partial truth. And so what I found was that there's all these options. And so what we did is we said, okay, we're gonna bring all the information together and we're gonna create something unique that has been there in different pieces. Basically, we didn't say we're gonna go and have Congress do something new. We said Congress already did this almost 50 years ago, and we took that and packaged it together so that people had the control. So this is nothing new, but it's new to most people.
And like I said, we're jumping right into it. But let's say you got a retirement account or maybe an old IRA with $100,000 in, and it's sitting in mutual funds, and it goes up and it goes down, and you were just told, hey, leave it alone, play the long game, and you're going to retire someday and have money. I think just for me personally, being in the industry long enough now, it's kind of a lie, right? They're not getting to their 60s and having a bunch of money. I think the average retirement account has like $200,000 into it for those that played the game right. So yeah, talk a little bit about maybe the why behind, like, it's not like we're saying, this is an option and this is an option. I think we're more looking at the option that you're taught and sold isn't working. It's broken. And if you want a fighting chance, you need to learn this stuff.
Well, so I'll say the opposite of that. And that is that the system works perfectly. It's just a question of who it works perfectly for. It works great, and it's magical for the Wall Street advisors, the ones that are getting their 1 or 2% or 3% or 4%. And so there's a guy named John Bogle, and you guys can Google him. He was the founder of Vanguard, and there's some great videos, and he's written some great books. Wall Street really didn't like him in his later years because he went after Wall Street and said there's something wrong with the system where 80% of the profit ends up going to the system when the person putting all the money and putting all the risk they put up all their money and they take all the risk and they end up with 20%. And why does that happen? It's because of all the fees that are compounded against somebody. So it's really fascinating when the advisors, the traditional advisor, if you will, says you should just stay. It's best. Well, it is. It's best for them. It's not best for you because you're riding this roller coaster and you're literally sitting there going, I'm up, I'm down, I'm left, I'm right. I'm so totally freaked out. You're not going to have the money you think. And the problem is by the time you get to 60 years old or 65, you don't have another 40 years to try to do something. And so not only are you not going to have the money, but you have no skills. And that's one of the beautiful things about taking control of your money. You start to build muscle. And that's where the magic is. You build muscle, which is the confidence, and confidence is where you actually have financial freedom. Having a bunch of money is not financial freedom. Having a bunch of cash flow is not financial freedom. Having the confidence muscle is where financial freedom lives. And you have to get involved. If you're just passive and you say, okay, well, my money is growing, what happens when that stops, or the market changes, or the person you're working with retires or dies? You're literally sitting there freaked out that you're going to lose your money and you have no idea how to grow it. So there has to be a fundamental shift if you want to have peace and prosperity and a retirement that's not scary. You have to get in the game. There is no such thing as totally passive. And that's one of the things that I've been saying more and more recently, that people sometimes they freak out. They go, well, I don't want to do work. And my response is, you're going to do work. Even if it's deciding who you're going to invest with, you're going to do work. There is an activity. There is active investing. There is no passive. Even money market accounts at a bank, you are actively choosing to go to the bank and put your money there. There is activeness. People get really, really weird about that idea. You're going to have some type of activity. So I wouldn't shy away from it. There's different levels of active. You can go swing a hammer and remodel a house, or you can find a great guy like you to do a deal with, and that's a lot more passive and less active. But I think this idea of I'm not going to do anything, when we have that mindset, Dan, of I'm going to be totally passive, what happens is people abdicate responsibility. They throw their money and they walk away and they just hope it all works out. And that's where people lose money. So you have to choose to care about your money more than anybody else, or somebody's going to get your money more than you.
Man, that was packed. And as you were talking, I was just thinking, I've had money in my bank account and I've had very little money in my bank account. And the confidence piece of I can go do it again is literally probably what probably keeps me pretty even, pretty controlled. Whereas I'm also flipping it to advisors, not advisors, but clients of mine who do look at their accounts daily or weekly. And then I get a call when it's down, scared. I get a call when it's up. Hey, I'm okay. That's crazy. I mean, it's nothing new. As you were talking, I'm like, confidence, learning a little bit about what you're investing in is so key. Whereas your typical IRA or 401k and stocks, bonds, mutual funds that somebody else manages, they don't even know if it's going up and down. How are you going to know if it goes up and down? So
what's going up is their fees every month, every year. That's what they know. They don't really care if the market's up or down because they're still getting a piece.
So you're talking about the advisor.
The advisor. And every year there's more money there because you keep putting more of your money in. So it's a great game for the traditional advisor. They get to harvest every year more and more, and you're literally on a roller coaster. And that's what people get sick of. And years ago I had some people that came to me and I remember they said, we want some money help. And I said, okay, what can I do for you? And they said, well, we're tired of looking at the green and red arrows every time we watch CNBC and we see the stock market's up or it's down. We feel richer, we feel poorer. It's just exhausting. And I said, yeah, let's get off the roller coaster. They said, yes, please. And so that's where the EQRP became a really significant piece of their plan so that they could have some sanity in their life.
Yeah, you mentioned cash flow as well. And you kind of said, cash flow doesn't make you rich, but I just think of like the advisor is investing, they're building up their assets under management and they're getting paid whether it goes up and down on cash flow. Whereas, us, the normal people that putting the money in the accounts, that's the worst part. It goes up or down, but you never get paid, and not jumping into the retirement years, but you also have no idea how you're going to get paid, right? Because the government might change. Talk about that a little bit. Who controls the 401ks and IRAs, and why is it really, in my eyes, I think in your eyes too, why is it so risky to place your trust in these long term?
Well, I mean, the reality is you have no idea. It's like a black box. And so the money that you put in, you're putting in there hoping that box is going to grow a garden, and you have no idea whether there's spores or whether there's toxic elements in there. You have no idea. You're not in control of any sort. When somebody says you're diversified, you're not diversified. You've got a splattering of stocks and maybe some bonds. And what's interesting, Dan, is a lot of people I know for my whole lifetime until recently, bonds have been this very boring, very safe thing. Well, if you bought bonds 3 years ago, those bonds are worth 50% of what they were worth 3 years ago, because when interest rates go up, bond prices go down. Same thing when the rates go down, prices go up. So there's an inverted relationship with these. And so you literally have no control. The difference when you have an EQRP, you have a self-directed retirement account, you get to choose what goes in there, and it doesn't have to be stocks, bonds, any of that stuff at all. It can be these actual real assets. So it's interesting when you're talking about cash flow and such, because the advisors are making cash flow and you're just hoping that your money is going to be bigger down the road. But ultimately, you want to figure out how to have something producing, because you can't live off of, you can sell equity. Your stock can go up and you can sell it. That's one thing. What's even cooler is when you have something that produces every month. There's some cash flow. There's rental income. There's interest income. There's something that's producing. And you get to choose anything you want. So here's the best part about EQRP. You get to choose the thing that fits you. You're not stuck hoping that your advisor is investing in something that's going to grow right, or something that you fundamentally disagree with. I mean, I think that there are some people out there that are pretty irritated that they're invested in certain companies. Maybe they're not so happy they're invested with Anheuser-Busch or its parent company. They're like, I don't want to be invested in Bud Light, but they don't have a choice. And this, it is, I think people are they do care what their money is in, because their money is supporting certain values and activities. And that matters to people. And there's plenty of things that you can do that are not a values philosophical misalignment and still make a lot of money. You don't have to do something that makes you cringe. And we have all these choices, but we're told we don't. In fact, what we're told is you'd be stupid to go do something. Don't be stupid, just give us your money and then go away and come back in 40 years.
Yeah. And even if you do well, I know we're on fees a little bit. Let's say you do well and you got $500,000 in your retirement and it's sitting there. What's the minimum fees they're paying? And they don't know they're paying it because they never see that. But talk about fees a little bit, because the EQRP, while it might be a little bit to set up and pay some upfront costs, it's going to save you a ton of money if you build a little bit of a nest egg, right?
Yeah, so it's funny because Wall Street tells you that they'll try to convince you that there's almost no fees, that it's just a 0.1 or 0.2% fee. Well, that's the stuff that they have to disclose up front, but there's all the fees, there's all the 12B1s, there's all these different fees on the backside that they just don't have to disclose. They don't tell you. So the average is between 2 and 4%, and that's just off the top. And then you have to make gains, and so you're losing that every year. So if you've got a couple $100,000, you could be paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year in fees you don't even know about. And with an EQRP, you're paying less than $1,000 a year for total control of your retirement money. That's a massive difference. So are you going to spend money? You're going to spend money. It's called a rational exchange. You don't go to a restaurant and say, well, I shouldn't pay for something. You're going to pay for it. There is an exchange, or you're going to be hungry. So you are getting, and the question is, do you want to pay for somebody to control your life, or do you want to pay for the control? And that's the difference. Where with a self-directed retirement account, you're not paying. You literally get to control it. And let me say something about fees, that you shouldn't be afraid of fees if the fees are making you money. When you have, as an example, you have a private equity type of deal, you have somebody that's going out and doing a mobile home park, or we have a manufacturing facility that we're doing, and there are fees involved. And you should be excited about paying fees to experts that are making you a crap load of money. And that's valid. It's rational. You're saying, yes, I want to pay the best people in the world to make me money. Okay. But what you shouldn't be doing is paying people to lose you money, or paying people to where they make money and you're just sitting there flat. And that's what Wall Street does. They get paid no matter what. It doesn't really make any difference, and they don't really care. Where guys like you and me that are doing projects, it matters. It's personal to us. We go out there and we execute, and we provide these returns to people, and we get paid by doing that. We get paid for success, your success, the actual client's success. That's the difference.
Yeah. So let's transition into how how would it work for someone? Maybe they're listening and they're like, yeah, I got an IRA or I got 401k. What could I roll over? What funds are available to maybe get in the game that we're talking about?
So for most people that have, if you have a 401k or an IRA from, like, you have a previous employer, or you put some money in an IRA, you can take pretty much all that money and roll it into an EQRP, meaning you take either the cash or you take the assets, and it's a rollover. It's not taxed. It's a very straightforward event, and then you have control of it. So about the only thing that you can't roll over typically is when you're still working at like, let's say you're a teacher and you've got a 403B or a 457 and you're still working. You're probably not going to be able to pull that money out while you're working. We did have an event in 2020 where people could pull up to $100,000 out during COVID. And that was useful for a lot of people to get some of their money untrapped. But for most folks, we've got previous 401ks that are like they're the orphans out there, and all that stuff can be rolled up together and put into an account. And basically what that means is we're going to take that cash, put it into a checking account that you control, and then you get to invest it. So pretty much any IRA, 401k, 403b that you have from previous employers, all that stuff can be rolled up and consolidated so you can actually invest the way you want.
And how about, like, not a huge majority of people or minority, but how about the business owner that wants to maybe set up some retirement accounts? How could they use the QRP? Yeah,
so this is actually one of the really unique, profound things that only the EQRP does in the United States. The EQRP has the ability, as you grow, let's say you say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, which is great. America needs as many entrepreneurs as we can get. We need people that are out creating solutions, building things. And so the EQRP is set up for individuals, it's set up for business owners. So you say, okay, I'm going to go build something, or I have some employees, or I'm going to hire some employees. The EQRP allows you to do that. It's a 401k profit sharing plan that allows you to share that opportunity with all of your employees. Everybody gets the opportunity to choose what they invest in. And so it's really, you're not the only one that gets rich. One of my philosophies, my job with my employees, my team, is that my job is to get them free. My job, and what I've committed to them, is that within 10 years, if they follow what I'm suggesting and teaching them and they invest, within 10 years, they are working because they want to work. They're not working because they need the money anymore. And that is a very different philosophy. So the EQRP allows you to help people build assets, build their money, and do it tax efficient or tax free. And there's ways to not pay taxes at all if you use the Roth EQRP. And so you really have that opportunity to share the abundance and the wealth, which I think as an employer or somebody that's thinking about employing people is a really important part of that role.
What's the bread and butter, like employee size, employee number, like that would benefit the most? Because I'm thinking of a specific client of mine who's got maybe four employees, and he's just like, I really want to. I promised them by their 90-day we would offer some benefits. Mm-hmm. So let's just set up a 401k plan. He doesn't even want to put his money in the 401k plan. He just wants to offer the benefits. Like, is this something that could help him out?
I think for the typical most common size of a company that has an EQRP is probably 4 to 15 people. It's fairly small. Giant companies tend to be more like sort of lockstep in with Wall Street. It's the smaller entrepreneurial type of businesses that want to give people more direct control, and they can talk with them about different things that they're investing in. So that's what we've seen. A lot of dental offices, a lot of smaller operators. The bread and butter entrepreneurs and small businesses of America is what this fits for.
Perfect. Yeah, and I would say that's the majority of the business owners I probably help. So this will be good to kind of throw it out there. So, tell me a little bit about you personally. We were talking before, we were talking about chasing the tail and this entrepreneurship journey a little bit. Where are you going with the QRP? What do you want to see happen in the next 10 years with it?
I mean, the goal with that is the dent in the universe is really about giving people options. And so I look back at the story about the starfish on the beach, where the little girl is taking the starfish and throwing them in the water, and there's millions of starfish on the beach. And somebody walks up and says, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm saving the starfish." And they said, "You can't save all the starfish." And she said, yeah, but I can, and it matters to this one. And she throws another starfish in. So our job is to help as many starfish as we can. And so there's not a point where we say, okay, we're done helping starfish. We're done helping people. It's really about impacting as many people as we can, as many people as want to be helped. And it's so whether that's 20,000 or 100,000 people, it's really up to people. We're going to keep doing this. It's to get as many people free and able to control their lives. I think we're going into a very strange time. I look around and I look at things when I go out. I was having lunch yesterday and I'm looking at the menu and I'm thinking, is that real? Like that is so. And I was looking at McDonald's on a menu. I don't eat McDonald's, but 3 years ago, the average thing at McDonald's was 50% less. So it's gone up approximately 100% in 3 years. People's income haven't gone up 100%. But people are having to make decisions. And the reason that they're feeling squished is because they don't have financial literacy. It's not part of our system. The system is meant to keep people really stuck. And I know that you spend a lot of time helping people get clear and give them options and teaching them how money works and such. So we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep helping people, mapping out their path, giving them tools. Ultimately, the more we do that, the more help we have in creating more of a middle class. Because the problem we have is we have this split in society. We have the very, very, very wealthy, and we have everybody else, and everybody else is getting poorer. So it's no longer that the tide is rising all boats. It's not. I don't care if there's more cool apps and technology and a faster iPhone. People are getting poorer because the money is so bastardized, and the system is feeding on people. So our job is to help people get to go past just surviving and to go into a thriving space. I don't see that as being something I'm going to say, okay, I'm done. In some form or fashion, we're going to continue helping people. And it's like we were talking earlier before we started about the things that make us happy. I was talking about being in nature, and I'm going to continue to do that. What I've been doing for the last decade is putting my head down and grinding. And I don't see me stopping in the grinding. I see that the grinding is going to be infused with a lot more nature, which I think is very healthy. And I think everybody could do better, like you're talking about being out in the woods. And there's no downside to people being in nature. And the reason I say that, when you're in nature, whatever that is, the ocean, the mountains, the fields, it's honest. When I look around, I'm here in the middle of Texas in Austin, and I see a lot of manufactured manipulation. When I see a building, I see humans doing things. And it's not that it's bad, but it's not honest the way that nature is honest. Nature is pure. So when you're there's no anxiety that something is manufactured or it's manipulating you. When you're out there and a freaking hummingbird comes by, that is about as honest as it gets. When a chicken comes over and does its thing, this is all honest. The more we can be in honest environments with honest people, with honest nature, whatever that honesty is, I think it calms things down and it gives us a lot of truth for our lives. And so that's what I'm personally spending more time and energy on, being in that environment. And I think it would help everybody to find that, whatever that is for each person, to be in those environments, not in the thing that's overly stimulated and artificial.
I like that. We were talking just, you move back to the city, it's a little busy, and now you're already mapping out your move to the mountains. So let's dive in like some specifics. The people that know me, I flipped some houses this past year. Probably had 20 some people give me money from $25,000 to $150,000. Put it into the house, we flip it, we sell it, they get part of the profits back. I've also bought some mobile home parks where, created an LLC. They get to be part owner of the LLC. The LLC is part owner of the mobile home park. Like, that's what I want to scale and grow and make more available, especially to my clients, but then, more people. Like, what would the QRP allow them to use? Because wouldn't it be cool, to your point, like, to just have more control, more access, and to get diversified out of the stock market? So like, what, and then follow-up question is, what if they want to flip a house? Could they use their retirement money, an old 401k, or they got an IRA that's in the markets and it's been flat the last couple of years? Could they roll that to a QRP and use that funds to flip their own house? So just talk about a little bit of the legalities, and anybody that's listening this far and wants anything, I'd be happy to sponsor a few of your books, because they're short, they're quick, and they lay this out as well. But go ahead and give them a little overview of specifically how they can use their money to invest in something they're passionate about.
So once you have control of your money, you have all these options, including if you wanted to go out and find a house to flip, you could absolutely go flip a house. You could do a deal with somebody that's doing a house flip. You could take your retirement money and say, okay, I want to put my $50,000 or $100,000 into Dan's deal to flip this house. So you have those options. You're in charge of the checkbook. So there's very, very few things that you can't do. One thing that you can't do, and you really can't actively invest, means you can't go flip a house with your retirement money and then go do all the work in the house. So you can't physically go there and tear the walls out, and because what you're doing is you're contributing. Now you could go flip a house and have other people do the work. That's totally fine, but or have somebody else manage it. That's really those are the limits. When people say, well, I can't do certain things, yeah, you really can't do the thing that's active. And all that, the reason being, the IRS says, well, that's you just contributing more money because your labor is valuable. So they don't want you to have your labor contributing extra, because right now, starting in 2024, you're able to put $23,000 per year of your income into it. And if you're a small business owner or you have self-employment income, you're going to be able to put $69,000 per person in additional contributions. Most people say, well, like my IRA, I can put $6,000 or $7,000 in. And I say, yeah, so the EQRP is 10 times better. You can literally put 10 times more money into it. So it's always funny to me when somebody says my retirement is my IRA, and I laugh and I go, you're literally going to have a crappy retirement because you're going to have no money. Like, you can't save your way into wealth putting $7,000 a year away. It's not going to work. Like, 40 years down the road, you've put in a few $100,000 and you've grown it to 500,000. I mean, that's more than most people, but you're still going to be scrimping and chasing your chickens. So this is not a good strategy. You've got to have the ability to do things that, like we talked about earlier, that are active, whether that's flipping a house or investing in a mobile home park or some other venture. And you also have options to do things like investing. You can buy physical gold, physical silver. You can buy Bitcoin. Like, there are things. If you don't know about these things, it is a really good idea to go educate yourself. Educate yourself on precious metals. Get a copy of my precious metals book. I'm happy to give you guys a copy. Just go to mygoldadvisor.com, get a copy of that book, and learn about these things. These are things that Wall Street's not going to tell you about because they want you to stay with stocks. But Dan and Damion are going to tell you about the things that are real. These are real assets. They're real things that they're going to create wealth and maintain wealth.
And if you want to actively invest in the stocks, okay, that's something. But be honest with yourself. You don't know what you're investing in. You don't know if it's going up or down or how the company's performing, right? Like, for example, my mom has a QRP. Not a ton of money in it, but we were able to roll it over. The fake COVID happened, right? The market crashes. We all know it's like a manufactured crash. I had a lot of her money, in like money market. I threw it into a Vanguard fund. 6 months later, it doubled and I moved it back. So if you're going to actively do some of that, it's not like stocks are the devil or anything. It's just confidence and control of what you're actually investing in is the key, right? So I just wanted to highlight that. And that's the cool part too. Everything your 401k advisor is putting you in, you can put it in the QRP too. If you're like, I just want to save on fees, well, you're still going to have less fees and be able to have all the same options, but you just have infinitely more options that maybe you're never going to get educated on when you go sit down with your financial advisor. And I want to talk about that too. I have friends, and I'm sure you do too, that are financial advisors. They don't know what they don't know either. They're just kind of taught to push out, let's do your risk assessment. Oh, you don't want to lose money. Let's put you in more bonds. I mean, they literally don't have very many tools to offer. Am I right? I mean, talk about that.
Yeah, that's something important. There's a lot of very smart, very, very well-intentioned financial advisors that are in a box. they are taught certain things by their institution. Here's what you tell people. Here's what the reality is. And it's kind of like being a tax advisor. When you go to a CPA and you're getting tax advice, they have a narrow niche of what they know, or they broadly know a bunch about things, but there's like 15 or 20,000 pages of tax code. There is no tax advisor, there's no CPA on the planet that knows all the stuff. And it's the same thing with financial advisors. They have what they know, and generally what they know is what they're taught by the company they work for. And the reality is financial advisors are financial salespeople. There are, I would say, a very small minority that are sitting there thinking holistically about you and your life. Most of them are simply saying, okay, let's put you in a box and give you this much large cap, big companies, small cap, international, and that's it. And that's because, and then they're saying, okay, let's throw some life insurance in too. But it's because it's these products that they have, and so they're advising you on what to buy from them. And it's not that their product is necessarily bad, it's just that they're not giving you the whole picture. And when you say, this happens all the time, probably to you and people that you've talked to, people will say, well, I talked to my financial advisor or their previous one, and I want to invest in real estate. And my financial advisor says, ooh, real estate is very dangerous. It's very volatile. So let's get you a real estate ETF and we'll put you in a REIT and we'll give you some exposure to real estate, but no more than like 5% of your portfolio. We got to keep it in the stocks and things that are sanitized. And so it's very bastardized in terms of what they're even going to know about, let alone offer you or be okay with.
Yeah. And if you are a financial advisor, friend of mine, I think we both mean this in the best way possible. I think we both came through that same track. I mean, from like 2014 to 2017, I was on that path, and I was like, dude, I can't stay in this industry if this is what I'm telling people, because, you know, it's not fair to anybody involved, really, if you really want to break free and get some freedom. So that was about the time I met you and just started learning everything. And I'm still learning. I don't plan to pretend to know everything, but it's just, you know, there's a whole world out there. And I mean, there's just trillions of dollars sitting in these retirement plans that, you know, you can get to work and get actually making some real money and get some confidence and grow it. So but man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time. We'll get this out, and hopefully, you know, if people have questions, reach out to me. I'll put in Damion's info. He's well known in the community. You speak at some some cool places. I think you spoke quite a bit. You're in deep with the real estate guys, right? If you don't know them, you should look them up.
Yeah, you can find all the information that you're curious about now. If you go to eqrp.com, you can Google my name. You'll find literally hundreds of different media appearances. So if you haven't had enough of my voice, you can certainly listen to hundreds of hours of me if that's some crazy thing that you want in your life. But definitely go to eqrp.com, download the summary of what we've been talking about. There's a good summary that you can literally just download and dig into and explore, because your power is in the education that you act on. So start with the education. This is great. I'm really grateful that you put this together and we can share these things, and then go dig deeper. There's some resources there, but definitely pull it on eqrp.com, pull the download and get access to that. And I think that'll help people. If you're thinking, I've got some retirement money that I want to do something with, it feels like it's stuck. This is a great opportunity for you to get control of it.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Good to see you.
You bet.